listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
Good morning, this is Frank. Let's not get off on the wrong foot. This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. Text the show on 81215 with your complaints. Follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio and email the show via the Absolute Radio website. Go on, join in. It's the modern way, isn't it? It's like the social media.
You know, you just said text the show with your complaints, and you haven't yet retracted that.
No, I'm sure there won't be any complaints.
Just be careful
I think
what
we're
you wish
generally loved, aren't we?
Oh, adored, I would say.
Strange way to start.
Well, I'll tell you something. What about I have evidence?
We are generally loved.
I have evidence. What about this? I went to a thing this week, which is great, and I always look forward to it. And it's the English National Opera Gala. So you get a bit of opera, dinner, and then you spend some money to keep the opera going.
All right.
I'm sorry, Frank. I
it
don't
a
think anyone
fundraiser?
else at the Opera Gala is looking at the invite thinking, "Oh, dinner."
Well,
A bit of dinner.
Is it included then?
it's all
Can't
over
do
the
Frank's
tabloids
stuff.
today. This gala. It turns out I was at like the party of the week.
Why is it in the tabloids?
Well, it's got Anna Friel. It says looking a bit worse for wear. It says.
I didn't know.
I don't know how to speculate.
Did you notice?
She gave a lot of standing ovations to, well, everything, really. I think dessert she gave.
She was
Seemed all right.
enthusiastic.
They're on the next table. I find, I've always found her a bit, someone I wouldn't dare approach.
Right.
I've seen her at a few things.
And you work with me.
Yeah. But I think she's very talented and that, but I would never go over and tell her.
Right.
I don't know why. I have a feeling she might headbutt me on the very bridge of the nose.
Oh, that's a sore one as well.
Yeah. So I didn't go over. She's with Holly Willoughby and Natalie Appleton. I say again, it was an opera do. Times are changing. Anyway, they're all over the papers. But they had... I offered to be a prize on the auction.
What sort of a prize?
You know, lunch with Frank Skinner at the Ivy.
Oh,
That kind of thing.
Lovely.
That would be a nice thing to do.
is it on you? Yeah, lovely.
It will be by the end of it. Now, at my age. But it was... it's all raised money for the opera, you know. It's a good cause. I know there's people out there listening to this probably who are starving. But, I mean, I try and do a bit... But it's all right to do it for culture as well. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So, so... I looked. You get like a tablet on your a tablet, as in
My kind of party.
like an iPad, not that kind of tablet.
okay.
No, that's.
I was
none
already
of that.
thinking it sounded quite
There
90s.
was none of that on our table. I was with Melvin Bragg on our table. There was none of that.
Oh, is his hair still lovely?
Lustrous.
That's good.
Anyway,
It's a wonderful gift, that, in later life.
we. So I looked at, it's all in categories: arts, entertainment, food, all the prizes you bid for. So there was one, experiences. So I pressed on that. There was just me. Just lunch with me. There was lunches you could do with other people, but they weren't listed under experiences.
Oh,
They were just
you are an
listed.
experience, though.
Frank Skinner experience.
Yeah, so there was only me. I had my own category.
Well, you should have your own category.
Did someone buy it?
So someone bought it
Oh,
for
brilliant.
£3,000.
Shut up.
I know. I was
Wow.
moved. I'm going to have to...
I'm really excited
obviously,
by this.
word has got out that I am fascinated.
This is going to be nice for us, Al.
Yeah.
Did you notice what other people were going for? Were you
Less,
doing that?
but I didn't want to bring that up.
Oh, didn't you?
But
Okay.
less.
I mean,
But are you secretly delighted Alan has?
I mean, I thought you might bring that up.
I can't bring up, but I mean, yeah, people went... I was really pleased.
I mean, it does make me
Excellent.
feel somewhat fortunate.
Think of the lunches we've had when you haven't paid a cent.
Oh, man.
know.
Probably about
I mean-
150 grand up here. That's great.
Could you write that on a cheque and send it to the English National Opera?
Can we
Yeah,
start
it'll
auctioning?
bounce.
Can I auction my position off next week?
You what?
What
My
which
brunch
position is that?
position.
Oh, right,
I was
I see.
gonna say,
Yeah.
so I don't have many positions left. I'm not giving up another one. Also, you don't want to put a number in their head to start off with when they're bidding.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Yeah, so that happened to me. But nightmare of nightmares. As I was...
I didn't see that one in the trilogy.
I was... when I was getting ready to go to the gala, I knew which suit... I got a black suit I was going to wear, because it's a black tie event.
Mm-hmm.
Picked the suit. It was like fluff on it. What's that?
God.
Lint roller.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I thought I need a Ronco... what was that called? The Ronco... Ronco fabric roller.
Oh, yes.
Remember Ronco used to have lots of inventions on the telly.
Yeah.
I do remember.
The Ronco record vacuum
Yes.
that used to clean
Oh.
your vinyl.
The grooves.
Yeah. So
So you had fluff on your...
yeah, and then I noticed there was fluff on the next suit next to us. I thought,
Oh.
wait, what is that? Moth larvae.
I've got a bad
Oh,
feeling it's moths,
That's
yeah.
hard.
Big holes in the trousers and stuff.
Where were the
Oh.
holes? Just everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, it was absolute sickener. So I had to do that thing I don't normally do. I went to a black tie do, but not quite in black tie,
Oh,
which I've always thought when people do that, they think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm being a bit of a renegade.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Did you go
Yeah.
navy then? What did you go?
In the end, I went with a sort of check.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah,
What, like a dark grey or
Controversial.
something?
yeah. Pardon?
I've worn a dark grey check
Well,
on occasion.
yeah, but it looked like I was making some statement about what an individual I was. Maybe
Right.
that won the big bid.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I thought we'll
They didn't know
pay the
about
extra bucks for a Maverick.
But anyway,
I mean, if it had only been a small hole, just FYI, little tip, you can just colour in with a Sharpie pen on your leg the area where the hole is.
I could
Is
have
that a
done
fact?
Yeah.
Apparently,
That's
what,
a
You can
great
do that in
idea.
a shoot. I mean, now
That's
they can
a great
retouch
idea.
anyway, but...
Can I do that if I haven't got a clean shirt and I just wear a jacket?
Yeah.
Could I draw in a shirt?
I've often thought that at the swimming pool, could you get away with just drawing the trunks on?
Yeah. Like one of those models that does the painted bodies
But
in
if
the
I turned
TV.
up in just a little pair of black trunks, people going, they get you from the right angle. I'd be all right.
Quite
Not
a sight coming out the water.
well, it depends how cold the water is. Yeah, so that was. But the very nice lady I was talking to on our table said that she'd had people. She had moths, and she got pest people, and they said the thing to do is intense heat. That's what kills them.
Oh, really?
So they cranked up. They put heaters in this room. She said it was unbearable. You couldn't go in there, and her television melted.
That's amazing.
Come on! I mean, and
Sure, this wasn't a dream that she had. Like,
can you imagine it? And that next day, Salvador Dali came out,
yeah.
and then off we went
There's
from
no
there.
clocks anywea. Yeah.
But oh God, I've pulled the fringe off the fez.
Oh, no.
Oh no!
I mean, it's quite
We may
bad,
have
but
to
your
explain
reaction...
that. We may have to explain that
Ow.
to people that don't regularly hear
Oh,
the
sorry.
show.
The
'cause-
producer,
Yeah.
when I've been talking too much, she puts a small fez on the desk next to me, which means move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took it then, and you know the top, the fringe. Not every fez has a fringe. There are different types.
I mean,
of
it's quite
fezes.
niche, this.
Yeah, but I pulled the fringe off. That's got to be some sort of an omen, hasn't it? I think.
Oh.
Sure.
Could be a Freel alert. She could be on the way. Absolutely furious. Oh, no. I'd be scared. I'd be genuinely scared. I don't know why.
No.
Would you?
Yeah, do you know her?
No, I mean, I've encountered her and she's, pleasant woman.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so frightened of her. Anyway.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking. He was frightened of all women. Yes, and what of it? Oh, sorry, I've been under a lot of strain. I've just broke the fares.
I know.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, we've had a big mo.
Oh, yes.
in. Would you like to hear it?
We should say a big mo is when someone tells you something that they think you won't know and that no one knows, but in fact it's very commonly known.
And I should say that a number of our readers get in touch to point out that every time you explain that is in itself a big mo. And it's becoming something of a big mo, but we're just doing it because we're considerate.
In my desperate mind, new listeners are joining every week. I've really started calling them listeners.
Every 10 seconds, I'd say.
Yeah.
So this is from Danielle, who says...
Danielle.
And I can't be sure if we've covered this big mo before on the show, but I feel confident you two will alert me if that is the case.
You two?
A colleague... Let's call their gardener up. My concrete patch needs seeing to. A colleague found some very old Tipp-Ex in the office today, and the ensuing conversation reminded me of a classic hashtag Big Mo. Did you know that Mike Nesmith from the Monkees' mum invented Tipp-Ex? Actually, it was liquid paper, I believe.
Yes, but it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's very, I'm going to say, it's very much of a muchness. I think that's a good one.
Okay, I do as well.
haven't heard it for a while.
Yeah.
And I do think there'll be a lot of people now saying, who's Mike Nesmith listening? Mike Nesmith was in the Monkees. That's not gossip. I mean the band.
We've had another. In fact, we've had.
Did you know that, Al?
I didn't know that, but I think we might have talked about it before, and I didn't know it then, and now I've forgotten it, and I again don't know it. But now I know it again.
Oh.
You're listening to Philosophy on Radio 4. No, you're not. Morning, Frank and the gang. A big moment for your consideration. Rio Ferdinand did ballet as a youngster. Kind regards, Hen. I never knew that.
I never knew that either.
But it makes sense.
Does it?
I didn't know that either. So the entire triumvirate...
What does did ballet mean?
Exactly,
was he at the Royal Ballet School?
Were there galas involved? With prizes being auctioned?
Or did he go to three classes in a local church hall?
Maybe 3.
Where he did a bit of...
We've also
we need more info on the Rio Ferdinand ballet career.
We've also had a text from 091. This is going to sort of break the format of the show a little.
That's not
but
we don't want that information from you two. We want it from 22.
Oh, very good.
Order.
I mean, that is the kind of material you're going to get.
Well, the
£3 grand lunch.
£3 grand lunch will be dripping with that kind of hot stuff.
Yeah. I'd say. I mean, if that was your opener... Yeah, and food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they go big on the
I might
champagne?
write some material about like meat, vegetables. If I can
do that.
I'll end up ordering the thing that I think has got the most laughs in it.
Order. Will you?
I'll have the spotted dick, please.
Beef Wellington.
Will you think about what you're going to say genuinely before?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't need to.
Of course he will.
Don't need to. It drops off me like windfall fruit.
091. Hi, Frank, Emily and Alan. I know you don't do shout-outs. And I think that's true. As such, we don't do shout-outs.
No, not unless I stand on Lego in bare feet.
But in his role as celebrity doula, do you remember last week we had a conversation?
I'm thinking of going round from attending the births of complete strangers.
Could Frank just
I suppose
say...
every birth is of a complete stranger, if you think about it.
I've never seen you before in my life.
No, but the child is always a complete stranger when it arrives.
What about when that's what a friend of mine's child said? He said, you remember Emily, don't you? I've never even heard of you.
Anyway,
I haven't seen him since.
Can I just tell you, I was in a restaurant once with me and Kath and Boz, that's my family, and Bozzy's first ever teacher suddenly turned up.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was really nice, and he was sort of slightly in love with her, as most boys are with their first teacher. And she came over and chatted to us and all that, and he was, staring at her, and it was lovely. And so she went away, and he turned to me and said, bear in mind he's 5, he said, I have no idea who that was.
Excellent.
And he bluffed it already.
Wow.
He's got into that thing of bluffing.
That is great.
I remember my first teacher, and that was, before the old king died. Miss Page, she was called.
Oh.
And she had, I'll tell you what, I think...
You must have loved that. So many punning opportunities for a young punner.
I think we can say this in the current climate. But
should we check?
She wore those very... in the 60s, this was the 60s, she wore those very, very pointy brassiers. Okay. I mean, really pointy.
Can I just say there's 3 female staff with their head in their hands in this room, and then there's you and I just talking.
Well, I think it's all right to say that.
I think it's
very pointy.
But everyone is reading this.
Yeah. But if I was working with people...
I'm going to leave you two to work that out. I'm just going to sit there.
Well, she was working with infant. If she'd been working with the juniors, there'd have been an eye height.
Right.
It could have blinded somebody.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's a sort of Diana Dawes vibe she was going for.
I remember it's what sticks in my mind more than anything.
Okay.
I remember seeing her open a letter once. No, I didn't. I've made that bit up. But it was, what happened to those? There's when Madonna had that Gautier bride. People saying I've never seen anything like this before. But Miss Page was years it.
Head turner, page turner.
About then, yeah. If she'd have been on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, there would only been one mould that she could have. Just the 2 conical indentations.
Wow, it's nice to know she made such an impression.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what she triggered intellectually? But that's how I think of her. But at least I remember her.
Yeah.
Bossy's talking about someone from 2 years ago. I wonder if she's still with us, Miss Page. Probably not.
That's a nice. Should we end it on that?
Let's end on that.
Yeah, lovely.
Let's end on that.
Text in on 81215
I thought about when last time I was in Giza.
Me too.
Looking at the Great Pyramids.
Skinner, Dean and Cochrane. Together, The Frank Skinner Show.
Absolute Radio.
I'm enjoying this, Alf. Did you see 342?
Well, I'm mid-text. I don't know if you remember. I'm
sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
It's just that the window of opportunity may well have slammed shut.
No,
if
never,
I can continue.
No.
091.
All right, needy boy.
Hi, no, I'm not being needy. All will be revealed.
Okay.
Hi, Frank, Emily and Alan. I know you don't do shout-outs, but in his role as celebrity doula, could Frank just say, "Push, Amy, push. My sister is giving birth right now in Dundee." I fear that we've talked so much about other stuff that the child may be out. But if you could, I mean...
What's the name?
It's Amy. Push, Amy, push.
Okay, I'm going to try. Push, Amy. Come on, love. Come on, you can do it. Push. Push, come on. Come on. I can see it.
Sounds a bit Frank Spencer.
Yeah.
You can do it.
That's what I think of. I think all men become slightly Frank Spencer at a birth.
Alan's Frank Spencer impression. I can't deal.
I remember how Terry turned up at the hospital and with a bag of stuff for my sister-in-law.
When you say stuff, was it lager?
No, it was clothes. Clothes.
Oh,
they need stuff in hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Are you just in time to see the birth?" And he said, "Oh," and he just put it down and ran off. Just put it down in the corridor.
What I like is she was probably fine about it.
But men didn't go to the birth in those days.
It's pretty new. It's pretty new.
Yeah. I think it was considered a piece of impertinence to be at the birth.
342 has been in touch regarding what you were saying about bars. Frank, I saw you in Hoxton Street about a year ago. I waved at you and you waved back. I doubt you remember me. That's Paula from Whitecross Street. In fairness.
Is she going to say, however, I have since bid £3,000 to have lunch with you?
Oh, yeah.
I remember the wave.
Do you? Oh, isn't that lovely, Frank?
No, I'm doing like Boz with his first teacher. Just wait till they've gone and then say, I don't remember.
Yeah.
No, I remember being in Hoxton Street. I think that's when I was filming for a documentary with Susie Klein about the history of popular entertainment. And, if someone waved, I would have waved back, certainly.
Well, that is one of your rules, I think.
It is. And I live by it.
Mm-hmm.
Not waving, but drowning. Okay, so anything else from the outside world?
Yeah.
It's all right, you don't need to make stuff up.
Well, yeah, we've got one from 563. Morning, Frank Allen and the Divine Missem. Why is it you have fingertips but not toe tips? But then you tip your toe, but you don't tip your finger.
You don't. Do you tip? Oh, tiptoe.
Yeah, tiptoes.
Yeah, you do
But
Do you
not
see?
toe tips.
Why fingertips, not toe tips?
Fiendish. That never occurred to me. Do you have? You do have toe tips, otherwise you wouldn't be able to tiptoe.
No.
Yeah.
What about Tic Tacs? What are they
Tic-tacs.
made of?
Oh, right, I see.
No, I don't know. I don't want to know what they're made of.
At the start of the show, also, you did ask the audience to text in their complaints. I don't know if you recall that.
Why did you do that, Frank?
740.
To do that.
Morning,
God.
Frank. You asked us to text in our complaints. I've got a bit of hay fever from Ian Angle.
Oh,
So there you
I
go.
think I've got a bit of hay fever.
You think?
Speaking of text-ins, when Sanita fills in her visa and it says occupation, what does she write? 8, 12, 15.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had an email in that I really like. Good morning, one and all. As recently discussed on the show and following last week's beaming sunshine, I've officially put my winter coat away for the foreseeable future under the stairs. That's where their coat goes.
Oh,
It's got a bit Harry Potter.
Mine goes.
We got a bit of damp onto the stairs.
Moth stamp.
Mine goes in a wardrobe at the top of the house rather than under the stairs. Anyway, it's good we're all different.
Where do you put your winter coat?
Yeah, 8, 12, 15.
15.
it on the coat hook.
I will be genuinely interested in some of the responses to that.
I bet there'll be people who take out the thermal lining and just wear it in the summer if it's a bit rainy.
Possibly. It occurred to me that it might be nice to slip a £5 in the pocket as I bid farewell to it.
Ah, yeah.
Safe in the knowledge that come autumn, I will have that just found a £5 in my coat pocket feeling.
You won't.
and put a
because-
smile on my future face.
No, but you'll remember. And
Yeah.
also, it doesn't do, I've found, to dwell on your future face.
One of the simplest good feelings in life, and one that Frank has expressed doesn't get any less special,
No.
regardless of how fiscally endowed one may become.
Indeed, but I would not get that thrill if I'd put it there deliberately.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
That's like using it as some sort of fabric safe.
You're right.
Lovely.
No point.
Yeah, you're right. The power is in forgetting.
I suppose if Nick, who
So
penned
true.
this email, I suppose if they know that they've got a terrible memory, they might get away with this. But if not,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, I suppose that's one of the thrills of getting older, is you can to set up stuff like that for yourself.
yeah.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
I tell you what, I was at a birthday party this week in a church hall. My nephew's birthday party,
Lovely.
and I made myself a cup of tea. I was desperate for a cup of tea, and when you're desperate for a cup of tea and you have a cup of tea, it's the best feeling in the world ever.
It's like every Halloween we have one, Frank.
Yeah.
At about 11 p.m.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we step away from the showbiz party, Emily and I, and just have a cup of tea.
Little
Nice.
tradition.
Oh,
Very
Nice.
I take me loosen me bolts.
Yeah, he loosens his butt. Last year, David Baddiel joined in. He said, "Can I have one of those teas?" Well, David, they're not really one of those teas.
Anyway, so I was. Then someone came who I didn't know, and they said, "Oh, I'd love a cup of tea." And I said, "I'll make you a cup of tea." So I ended up behind the counter.
Oh,
Lovely.
I must have made people 20 cups of tea.
really?
And you know what? I loved it.
It's good.
Yeah.
I've realised, because when you hand someone a cup of tea, they look really pleased.
Yeah.
It's much less complicated than comedy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the JC says about a cup of tea, famously?
Who?
The JC, Gemma Collins.
Collins.
No, what does she say?
She says, if you make someone a cup of tea, it's like giving him £1,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
Do you think that's true?
I'm not prepared to. You know my view.
Like a baby without a pram, burning without its hand, where would we be?
Fantastic. The marvellous Gilbert O'Sullivan there, making a profound point, if you ask me. But it reminds me, I went through a period of going out with quite a lot of waitresses.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's because I saw them as a source of nourishment.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you feel. That saying that it's better to give than to receive. It's very rarely true, but I loved giving people a cup of tea that I'd made.
I can see you could have had, in an alternative life, I can see you with a van.
Like a soup kitchen.
Yeah, So, all right, maybe burgers or
I
something.
was thinking
sort of a greasy burger van.
a cafe with me in a striped apron.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
I can see
remember
that.
Lead Balloon, that Jack D thing? Do you remember the guy that worked in the cafe there?
Yeah.
Slightly sardonic.
No.
Okay. Him.
The Frank Skinner Show. Listen live every Saturday morning from 8 on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily, Dean and Alan Cochrane. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
Frank, Lisa Tibbs has been in touch. You were talking about tea earlier and how much you enjoyed making it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She says, we just checked. We'd rather have the £1,000 than a cup of tea. We can make our own tea.
Okay, but can you make it like I make it? No.
Yeah.
I was talking about the joy of handing it. I think giving someone £1,000 would not feel as satisfying. A, because you've lost £1,000, but B, there's always someone a bit dirty about money. Whereas tea, beautiful. Saying to someone, would you like a cup of tea? It was lovely. I would not have said to one of the women who arrived, would you like a coffee?
You wouldn't.
Why?
A
bit sleazy.
whole suggestion.
Do you think it's a bit sleazy, the coffee?
I think you're moving. I'd be the subject of a Twitter storm. Yeah, fancy a coffee? Come on, get off me.
I think it would be even worse if you'd said, would you like £1,000?
Yeah, well, exactly.
That would have been the worst of the three, possibly.
That's true. That is true. I didn't say that, though. Would you fancy £1,000? I bet you wouldn't say no to £1,000, would you? God, awful.
Yeah.
See, tea, there's a lovely cleanness about
Yes,
tea.
there is sort of an innocence, isn't there, about tea?
Fancy a tea? Oh, that'll be nice. You'll arrive on your push bike with a bicycle clip.
That's a nice tip for any men out there. Offer a tea, not a coffee.
Yeah, and in the daytime as well. Meet people in the daytime early on. Don't meet them at night.
I have a question. You said you thought you made about 20 teas the other day.
Yeah.
How many teaspoons do you think you went through in that 20 teas?
Well, I didn't hand over the teaspoon.
What do you mean?
No, but you
utilise the teaspoon.
I kept 1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon,
Yeah.
20 teas.
Because...
I didn't want to picture you washing up after each cup.
No, I did quite a bit of washing up, but I didn't... Because great thing with washing up, get in early, just rinse. All we have to do is rinse. Do it straight away.
I quite enjoy a wash up now.
People get up the next day, now I've got a scour.
Yeah.
On the day, it's gone.
Straight away, yeah.
But I didn't want to... I think because I was behind the counter, I got quite health and safety conscious. I thought if I hand one over with a spoon in, somebody could lose an eye.
Yeah.
And that could be liable. I do like leaning on the counter though, saying, "Can I help you?"
Maybe get yourself a little job in a shop as well.
I'd get a serving hatch.
Well, I think
that
you'd
would be
enjoy. I think
Just in the road.
You love the bants, don't you?
Yeah, but a
does love
serving
bands.
hatch, I feel like you'd still get that experience. You'd still get your elbows on the counter.
I'm sure Kath would love that.
What'll it be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to live in a flat with a
With the serving
hatch. I
They
quite
are
liked
good.
it. I'll tell you what I'd do is I'd make a cup of tea in the kitchen and leave it by the serving hatch, nip round to the living room, there it was.
There you are.
Didn't have to carry it. It's a
Brilliant.
trepidatious move, the carrying hot tea.
It is.
And it was just there, as if someone else had made it. Fantastic.
Good for people that live on their own as well.
I'm not getting
I've never had a hatch.
Thank you.
Never had a serving hatch.
No.
Get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they out of fashion?
I think they're a bit whatever happened to
8, 12, 15. Are serving hatches out of fashion?
Yeah, there'll be builders. We have a lot of builders listening.
Well, we
I
do.
think. Yeah.
134
They'll be
is,
listening on a radio cassette player that's got drips of paint on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
134 has texted, I vacuum pack my winter coats and jackets and put them at the bottom of wardrobe. Karen.
That's a vacuum packing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that these days.
So you actually take the air out of it.
Just
Yes.
with a Hoover.
Very good
Some
storage.
people use a Hoover.
Do they?
Yeah.
She sounds very sensible.
I've got a
Very
vacuum
sensible.
packed. I've got a vacuum packed Volkswagen Beetle.
Have you?
Yeah,
Have you actually?
I really have. Yeah, drain all the fluids, and then it's vacuum sealed. Yeah,
It's not.
I'm serious.
Wow.
That's,
I mean, you
that-
don't
that
even
thing-
care about cars, but you've got a
No, I do like
vacuum-packed
those
one.
though. I like those. Hitler was one of the great champions of the original Beetle.
VW Beetle, yeah.
Yeah, but still, that's why I'm.
We're going to go end on that?
That's why I'm.
I'm playing a song
Why are you
now.
going to take us out of
Snake.
that?
No, but that's why I've had it vacuum packed. I'm going to keep it in a garage till the whole anti-Hitler thing blows over.
Oh, God.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
403 has texted, Hi all, I have a new espresso machine which will definitely be ignored this morning in favour of a nice cup of tea. Thanks for reminding me of my roots, Lucy.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't say espresso.
No, that was me.
I know,
I
you
did
nearly
that.
went a bit Des
Yeah.
Carts.
I've just
It did,
got a new percolator.
Have you?
Do the people still? Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Coffee percolators. Do people still get those?
Well, it's all the George Clooney machines
A
now.
lot
No,
of the George
it is.
Clooney
Yeah.
machines.
It is, and those little cafetières.
Oh, yeah.
Well, oh man,
I
that's the
love
other thing with
those.
coffee, the paraphernalia of it.
All the filters.
Oh, yeah, you'd have been there all
Remember the
day making
filters?
20 coffees.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
filters, yeah.
Yeah.
And
My
it's a
mum
bit
would say
like-
to her friends, "Do you want a coffee?" For 3 hours. They'd be sitting there watching it
You had
drip
to fold
down.
it into a sort of Miss Page Bra type shape.
Oh, he's off again. Memories.
I wonder if she's alive. I'll try and track her down. Let's
Don't
face
do
it.
that. We
Yes.
haven't talked about Arsene Wenger this morning.
No,
Why?
we-
What's happened?
Oh, come on.
Can
Can we discuss this, please?
Yeah.
It's big news. It's one of those
Massive.
football stories that was like second on the main national news
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Well, he's spent a lot of time in post, hasn't he?
22
He's-
years.
22 years.
22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
But it does seem
Apparently
this morning.
He's going to do a breakfast show in Melbourne.
Is he?
Yeah. That was an Absolute Radio in joke.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
I love an
Sorry.
intro.
Yeah.
So,
What if he was though? Wouldn't that be absolutely brilliant?
In all seriousness, I do
Setting
genuinely...
up against the OC rival thing. Good morning and welcome to Radio Wallaby.
Radio Wallaby, nice.
And he plays it. He starts with Wallaby. Got the Spice Girls to do a version of Wannabe, where they say Wallaby. He's got
Right.
and he's not regularly, just a launch.
Yeah, it's called in favours because
For
he
the
knows
Arsene.
people that knows the Spice
Yeah.
Girls,
do you
doesn't he?
know what? If he did that, I would
Probably.
love it. I would love it if he did
There's
that.
a feature called Arsene's Around in which he does a bit of a OB interview with people working in St Kilda and other parts of,
Right.
on the tram in Melbourne.
Good day,
Picnic
mate.
Rock. I'm in Picnic Rock today.
Stone the flaming cross.
I genuinely do hope that he goes somewhere warm because he looks... He's got sort of paler and paler and he's a person that looks terribly unhappy in the cold British winter.
That's why I
don't
love
you
him. It's
think?
because he's thin.
I'll tell you what he's going to
So
miss.
The thin don't like the cold.
He's going to miss the full-length puffer
Oh, the
manager
puffer.
coats.
There's
free.
so many clips of
And
him
the-
not
the-
being able to get those zipped
The
up.
zipper, do you know, he never did master that zipper.
Never.
No.
And I feel like a
I know
hot
the
country
feeling.
may solve that problem for him. Like, just go somewhere warm.
Well, he, of course, he's done a lot for technical area chic, Arsene, I feel.
You think?
Yes, because I think he was a really early adopter of the cardigan waistcoat vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes,
Yeah.
he went cardigan.
I've got a
Love
problem
that
with
one.
his tie knot, though. It's huge. Have you noticed how big the knot on his tie
Yeah,
is?
it's quite Windsor.
I think it looks like, there's phases at school when people do their ties up in different ways. It looks like that sort of teenager. I'm having a massive knot.
Yeah, because that thing when you used to have to tie your school tie very near the end so you could get a big knot on it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
I think that's what
Speaking
he's
of
up to.
which, he went for the grade school jumper thing as well, which Pep Guardiola favours. Now, there's a few of them gone for that grey jumper. I think that's to show that they're still learning.
Oh,
That
yeah.
they're students of
Every
the game.
day's a
Can I
school
tell you what
day.
I'm loving?
Yeah.
And I like to think, I'm going to call this my effect on you. There's been some quite big football news this week, and we've just spent the last 5 minutes talking about it from a fashion perspective.
Ties
There'll
and
be
jumpers
more.
and coats.
There'll
I'm
be
delighted.
more stuff,
Yeah.
certainly. I always Tony Pulis, when he was the West Brom manager, always just dressed from the club shop. I think he couldn't resist the urge.
Did he have a baseball cap as well?
Baseball cap and
Wow.
tracksuit. You never see him in the suit on the touchline.
Yeah.
And I always used to say, if you drove past, say 3 o'clock in the morning, drove past Tony Pulis and his family night fishing, there would probably be over 40 grand's worth of stock from the club shop. Just stretched across the whole family.
I always used to find Tony Pulis' system a puzzle because he used to
Yeah.
wear the tracksuit and a baseball
Baseball
cap
cap.
at pitch side,
Yeah.
and then it would appear when he was interviewed on Match of the Day that he'd showered and put on the suit. And I always used to think, well, that means he's travelling back on the coach in a suit. Surely the suit is for the touchline and the tracksuit is perfect for the coach home.
He's got
No,
it
but
all wrong.
it's not a
I
long
thought he
haul
had it.
flight.
Right, sometimes they were playing
When
in
did that
Bournemouth
happen?
or something.
When did people decide that on a long haul flight you can dress in anything?
Yeah.
I still like to wear a suit and that.
96.
on a
Oh,
long
so
haul.
do I.
People just
No.
think,
I mean, not a suit.
they think they've got to go elasticated waist on a long haul flight.
Yeah,
because
I'm
they
with
might
them.
get they
I'm
might
totally
get
with them.
Are you?
a thrombosis.
I
That's
think
what
it
they're
looks
worried
horrible.
about.
I
It's
hate.
I think
thrombosis prevention.
The stiffest fabric I'd consider on a long haul flight is corduroy. I would work my way downwards to jogging bottoms.
I've travelled in tarpaulin.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I just want to interrupt some of the Arsene Wenger news
Yeah.
because.
I forgot that.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Oh, can I just one of those just for pleasure?
Yeah.
Arsene Wenger. Okay. Oh, it's good.
You've
Who
had.
did we have last week? We've had 2 consecutive weeks with
Yeah.
people's names go with stuff from Lion King.
Lion King,
Because
yeah.
we had the Japanese guy who went with Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
That's right. That is true.
You've had a figure made of you. This is from 384.
This is from a woman in Tahiti who you dumped in 1988. Oh no.
That stuff will catch up
When
with
you do that voodoo that you do so well.
Hi Frank, I make custom figures and I specialise in Doctor Who. I've custom made a figure of your character from the... Were you in Doctor Who? From the Doctor Who show.
Have I not mentioned it?
And you can see it on my Instagram page, which I've just looked up, and it's absolutely
I've been
brilliant.
waiting. I'll tell you something. There's a regular magazine.
That's from John, by the way, who's from Who's Who Customs, it's called.
There's a regular magazine that brings out figurines
Right.
with the magazine. Every time they come out, I have a look to see if it's me.
Is this a Who thing or just a general thing?
There's a company called Robert Harrop that makes stuff. Again, I always go to see if they've got me in the new range. Eagle Moss. I'm always there. Never. No. I've got a picture of the mummy on my wall just on his own.
Right.
That's the closest I could get. But
Oh.
I
There's
would
some great
kill for
figures,
that.
though.
Was it good?
Well, they look great. I mean, as you can imagine, some of them I don't actually recognise them.
You think?
Well, yeah, I think...
That's not because they're not accurate, though, is it? It's
No.
because you wouldn't know Alpha Centauri.
No, but I would...
If she walked in here now...
I would know
is she?
the pirate... What was he called? The pirate captain? Because...
Alpha at the Pirate Planet,
yeah, that was played by one of my parents' dear friends.
Bruce Purchase.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Little Doctor
He had
Who
a
moment.
killer parrot.
Killer parrots?
Yeah, it was a robot,
All right.
obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've had enough of looking at the destroyer.
No, but that's. I must have a proper look at that. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
So yes, the thing about
That's what that was actually. That was an impression of Jeff Tracy talking to his son John in Thunderbirds. Who would have got that? John.
Frank, we should get back to
Awesome.
Arsene Wenger.
because the suggestion this morning, we have to say, was not that he walked, but that he resigned rather in the fashion in which Robert Mugabe resigned, which
Right.
was, I believe, shouting betrayal
Oh, was it?
is what happened. Yeah, I think he shouted betrayal.
Oh dear.
And he
I
cried.
think that's what happened when when Brendan left Strictly.
Oh, yeah.
I think Robert Mugabe also shouted chameleons.
Did he?
Chameleons.
No, but he's telling his wife not to tread on them.
Right.
I think.
Good bit of advice.
There's one
actually.
on the path.
So yeah, do we think Arsene may have forced his hand somewhat? Do we think?
I don't know about
Okay.
that. Let's give him the benefit of the
I
doubt.
hope
for
so.
22
I wish
years.
he'd really made that. Like, I wish he'd stayed until they changed the locks and stuff. Like he
Yeah.
just
Like what? Like
Well,
Alex
he did.
Ferguson, you mean?
really doubled down.
He basically did. He held on
Yeah.
pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked his parting words, guys, because it was very Whitney Houston, I will always love you.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
He went a bit, I'm not what you need, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, he did. He said, take care of the values of the club, my love and support forever. I think that's so
It
nice.
is nice.
He always talked a lot about it. The problem is he's staying, though, till the end of the season.
Yeah.
That's the
Fine,
trouble with the
though.
emotion. You know when you say an emotional farewell to that couple you met on holiday and then they're at the taxi rank?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. He said, take care of the club and that, and then next day, all right, Arsene, here we are again. It's
Yeah.
just a bit, it's sort of safety. I don't know why they announce it early at all, because now there'll always be a strange limbo where they don't play so well. I don't know why, but that always
Oh,
happens.
they were saying on the radio that the lads will try and go out on a high for him. That's what they were
But I
saying.
don't know, but when I've dumped people in the past, I've never said,
Yeah.
that's it, it's all finished with you. We'll be separating
Yeah.
on
What do you
May,
say, all
May the
lefty friends?
22nd. I find that then you have a period of intense awkwardness.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do, because I put it in the contract that I send over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a non-disclosure.
But no, that's... I know I'd never do that unless, of course, we booked a holiday.
You're listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
There's been some nice Arsene tributes.
Has that?
Yeah, Rafa Benitez. I've been talking well about him for a while.
Oh,
What a lovely,
not that well.
lovely thing to say.
Is that
Yeah.
what he said?
Yeah,
Isn't it
Jose, if he is happy, I am happy. If he is sad, I am sad.
Is that what he said?
Lovely, yeah.
He also said that he was a specialist in failure a few years ago, so I suppose things have changed.
It's good.
David Seaman, hashtag remember the trophies.
Oh, that's
I
good.
like
Lovely.
That's a good one.
Keep it real.
That is good, because I think people sometimes forget that they've got trophies. They remember him
Yeah.
not zipping his jacket up and stuff like that. And
Remember him by the
yeah.
coat gifts.
there's some important things to.
Yeah.
I heard a phone in yesterday where they were discussing Arsene Wenger, and they repeatedly talked about how the changes that he'd made included broccoli. The players started eating broccoli.
No,
But it was,
no, I think they moved to broccoli.
oh, they moved to broccoli.
That long.
Oh, right, yeah.
No, there was lots of stuff. He stopped the meeting. I'm sure I've told you this before. He stopped them eating jelly beans before they went out onto the pitch initially.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after a time, he slightly mellowed and let the bowl of jelly beans come back. So they would just they'd grab a handful of jelly beans before they went out on the pitch.
But then having a huge sugar crash about halfway through the
Yeah,
second
but you know
half.
what? If I'd known there was going to be just a massive bowl of jelly beans, I think I would have tried harder at football.
Yeah.
Just being in a job where you're on your way to work, you just grab a big handful free.
Free jelly beans.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way they were talking about him in the broccoli, it was like they thought he was Sir Walter Raleigh returning with the potato.
Well,
or
Yes,
something.
it was something.
They were really going on about
I
it.
must have told you about the when I was in Cape Town just before England Algeria, and we went to this hotel, and he was sitting. There was loads of fans in there, and he was just sitting on his own at a table.
Lovely.
Arsene Wenger.
That's how I imagine him.
Which was quite courageous of him, I thought. And one or two people had come over and talked to him, but not that. He was fine. He's just sitting there. And and then the waitress arrived. He'd obviously ordered something to eat.
Yeah.
And he just had a plate with a big red apple on it. And it arrived with like a serviette and cutlery. And I watched him eat a big red in Cape Town, South Africa, in the very shadow of Table Mountain. He ate an apple with a knife and fork. Arsene Wenger.
I hope the Lion King was playing in the background.
It was the most incredible spectacle.
Could it possibly have been a baked apple? Or
No, definitely
am I
not.
playing devil's advocate?
Definitely
too much
not.
here?
It was a very sort of rosy red apple.
It's a strange thing to do.
But
That
I'd
was his
say in
dinner.
summer, I'd lay a pound to a pinch. Well, we can't say that.
No.
But it was not the first time he'd ate an apple with a knife and fork. He really knew his.
This wasn't his first rodeo.
He knew where to put the fork. See, I would be, where do you put the fork? But he was very good. He never held the stalk in his hands or anything. It always looked solid.
It never toppled.
No.
Yeah.
And he stayed upright. And when he'd finished, not only was there a core, but he'd slightly taken out some of the bit of extra stuff with the knife and fork, and still it hadn't fallen over. I mean, he was good.
Very good.
Yeah. I doubt they'll get another manager who can do that.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
While we're talking about Arsene Wenger, there was something on Twitter that annoyed me. I realise I'm not the first person to ever say that.
No.
But come on, did you see these people that were saying, is it just me? I mean, that put me off for a start.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it just me? But I assumed that Arsenal Football Club was named after Arsene Wenger. They
No.
genuinely thought that. There were people in there, like 18, 19-year-olds saying, I'm really embarrassed, but I thought this. They weren't joking.
Wow.
Couldn't that possibly?
I suppose their whole life, Arsene Wenger has been at Arsenal.
Oh, come on, that's no excuse.
I didn't say that it was definitely an excuse.
It's rank stupidity.
Well, I'm trying not to be mean to stupid people, but
And the fact that Man United and Man City are both managed by men.
yeah,
Did people think that's why they were called Man United and Man City?
maybe.
Do they think berries were named after Mary Berry? I think they do.
I think chronologically they probably were. We were just talking off air there. I don't think he's going to be like Sir Alex Ferguson, sitting like Banquo's ghost at the party
No.
in the
Great reference,
stands,
by the
watching
way.
over
Great
the next
reference.
Thank you so
Love a
much.
reference to Banquo's ghost.
Yeah.
Very good.
Actually,
I don't think Arsene Wenger's going to be at all the Arsenal games looking down disapprovingly at the new
way
man.
too
I don't
classy.
think he might never go there again.
he's Kaiser
that would
Soze.
be cool.
My guess is you'll never hear from him again.
That would
I
be
know what
cool.
I'd do. We'll see. I think he might carry on managing.
Do you?
Yeah, health club.
He could.
Hello, David Lloyd Centre.
Yeah,
Arsene
He could.
speaking.
maybe.
I mean, that or the Melbourne
Restaurant.
radio show that you've already
They'll
discussed.
do a restaurant.
Yeah, restaurant.
An
Apparently the apple
apple
is
a day.
Absolutely, that's what it could
apple
be
a
called.
day keeps the doctor away.
But no, I don't think he'll be. I tell you, if I was him, though, I'd say, what are you going to do with that beaded curtain in the hospitality area? Because there's a big metal beaded curtain with his picture, which forms his picture.
Right.
I mean, you want that in your house, do you?
And they won't want it
What
there
you want
for
when
the next
guests
guy.
come round.
Yeah.
Especially, I think he's single now, is he?
Is he?
I mean, imagine someone sitting. Maybe you've got to the stage where they're sitting in the bed waiting for you, and you emerge naked through a beaded curtain with your own
Of
image
yourself.
on. I mean, it's the best moment. Whatever happens after that woman will have that moment. If it's a woman, I don't know what.
Yeah.
For the rest of her life.
And that's before she's even seen him eat an apple.
Yeah.
Come on.
Good. But to enter in through your own beaded curtain, how marvellous.
It's a statement piece, isn't it?
It is. I'm thinking too much now about the actual point of entrance. But I just think that would be brilliant. Maybe they'll keep it as a sort of tribute to him, but I would ask about it if I was him.
Yes, it should be.
But the next manager probably wouldn't want to repeatedly walk through a beaded curtain with the previous manager on it, would they? They would feel a bit like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if he's got the... when he's got the breakfast radio show in Melbourne, imagine saying, and we've got...
Yeah.
And we got Paul Hogan on this morning. Is Paul Hogan alive?
Can you check if he's alive?
I don't think he's
Someone's
alive.
just checking on the pink. Can you check the pink iPad and see if he's alive?
Let's say we've got Danny Minogue on the show today,
Excellent.
and then you'd hear the rustle of the metal curtain
that would be good.
as she came in through the...
like stars in their eyes.
Yeah, but it'd work on radio. That's what would be brilliant. He's got to hold on to that curtain. They owe him that.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This news just in, Paul Hogan is still with us.
Oh, thank God for that.
Okay.
I didn't want him entering but not moving the beaded curtain in any way.
I would say
Just coming through as vapour.
What about when they asked Arsene Wenger the difference between the French and English when it came to football? And he said, the French, we pollute our emotions because of our Cartesian spirit.
Did he say
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Excellent.
Descartes, Sal?
But when they said, when they asked Alex Ferguson about him, do you remember this? And Alex Ferguson said, well, it's all wrong. They think he's like the professor and an intellectual, and they think I'm obsessed with football. But he's watching like Bundesliga games on a Tuesday night on the telly, whereas I've got all sorts of interest. My favourite film is Seabiscuit. You've branched out that far, have you? Sir Alex? For goodness sake. You can argue that till you're red in the face, Sir Alex. You're not going to convince anyone. No, but he's not going to be a brooding presence in the stand.
No.
He's too cool for that.
391 has texted.
You won't hear from him again.
He should become manager of the Wenger boys.
That's
an excellent joke.
Come on.
Yeah, that would be great.
That is very good. He's already managed Arsenal. Now Wenger boys are in your breathing there.
I could think of a good way of dancing to that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Arsene dancing to it.
Yeah.
The Great White Ghost. This is known. Thin White Duke was David Bowie, was it? That could apply to. You wouldn't be a duke; you'd be a comte or something like that.
Yeah.
What worries me is he's made this decision during a heat wave. You know what I mean? You're in the garden in your deck chair, reading Le Monde, and you think, this is the life. That's it.
Yeah.
On the phone, you know what? Au revoir. And then next week, he'll think, oh. Then he'll be pining for the manager coat. It'll be too late. Nice greyhound coat, I'd like to... Just a greyhound coat. That's... If he's on the front of the Sunday Telegraph magazine, naked, on all fours, in just a greyhound coat.
Skinner, Dean and Cochrane. Together, The Frank Skinner Show.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. Text the show on 81215, please. Follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio if you'd like to, and email the show via the Absolute Radio website if you're over mind to.
Creaky chairs today.
I've got an update.
Creaky chairs, they make me feel fine.
Got an update. Hi, Frank, Emily and Alan. And there's an apology for spelling my name wrong before. It's fine. ALUN is not... phones aren't going to love that. It's very difficult to force it to... Anyway, caps letter. Caps now. Update. Amy has given birth to a little boy. Thanks to Frank for his doula work. Amy will be recommending him.
That's tremendous. Hold on. Or maybe, as she's given birth to a little boy... Might be another one coming out, you never know.
Well,
Wicked
it's-
boys.
The going
Maybe.
rate is
Do you remember that old joke about the bloke who he lives a farmer and he lives in this little cottage on the moors, miles from everywhere, no electricity or nothing. And the wife goes into labour and the doctor arrives on horseback and he gives him a candle and he goes upstairs and he says, "Congratulations, you got a baby boy." He says, "Fantastic." And then he says, "I'll go and see how she is." Then he comes back, he says, "Congratulations, you got another baby boy." Then he goes up again. Doctor comes back, he says, "Congratulations, you got a baby girl." He says, "I'll go up again." And the bloke says, "Can you leave the candle? I think it might be the light that's attracting him."
Oh, he loves that. Frank.
And we had a lovely photograph of somebody's serving hatch.
Yeah, we
got
did.
sent
Did we?
in.
It was so lovely.
Weirdly, it's got the cop on the serving hatch.
Yeah.
I said it used
It's
to be.
from Andrew Dembina.
But also, I wonder if he's related to Ivor Denby.
I wonder.
He says, literally making use of my hatch whilst listening, and he's got the tea and the
But
white
the
radio.
for some reason, I always keep the radio by the hatch as well. I think so. It's whichever room you're in listening to it, you can reach across and.
Also, can we just take a moment to respect his use of the word literally and it being
it was
accurate?
literal.
Because so often used
Well,
not
he's an
literally
editor,
these
and
days.
he lives in Hong Kong, I believe.
Oh, well, we
Does
admire
he?
his serving
He's
hatch.
got a
and-
serving hatch in Hong Kong.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. This guy's got
Taking
it
the
all
edge off it
going
now.
on.
'Cause he's probably got servants. It takes the fun out of it if.
Well, it adds a lot of liberal guilt.
Yeah.
We've got some other serving hatch news. Frank,
Oh,
serving
great.
hatch is ideal. Our friends have a serving hatch and we took it in turns to see if we could fit through it after a few drinks.
Oh,
We
wow.
managed to get two middle-aged men through together. Dan, Norwich.
you?
That is good.
Oh, Norwich, I thought they might be West Brom fans.
Oh, wow.
It just sounds like the kind of thing they might
Maybe.
do.
Two middle-aged men through a I think that qualifies as a civil ceremony. Wow. It makes me... I don't understand why... They're so good, serving hatches. Why did they go out of fashion?
I think the open plan living room may have been the nail in the coffin of the serving
cool.
hatch.
I just have a standing serving hatch in the middle of an open plan room.
It's like a window frame. So
I wonder if Joe Brand's got one.
why?
Why?
Brand's hatch?
Oh.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
364 has sent an excellent suggestion. I feel we could merge Frank's new roles as celebrity doula and tea maker as being the person who delivers your tea and toast post-birth. Best cuppa and tea ever. Also, do you think Frank exaggerated how many teas he actually made?
I was talking last week
Yeah.
how people say, if people say I've seen a film 10 times, they mean they've seen it 6 times. I said I made 20 cups of tea. I made 11.
Okay.
That might have been 12. But,
Still a lot.
it probably wasn't 20. It wasn't 20.
Now
There's no probably about it.
Now I'd like to talk about a subject that we have talked about on this show many and oft times. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
parking. I mean, we love a
Oh.
parking chat. We love a parking chat.
Can I tell
You do.
Can I tell you before we begin this story?
Right.
I went to Whipsnade Zoo this week. I took just me and the boy, and I got back, and there was a parking space not far from my house, like 20, 30 yards, but a tight one, and there was a group of builders sitting across
Oh dear.
the road on a break. I'd say 4 or 5 builders. And I felt the old pulses started to go in my neck.
Yeah.
And I
Feeling the
thought,
pressure by
oh,
proxy.
I know. Yeah, it was. So I went in, and it's the best bit of I went in, came back,
wow.
and I didn't have to adjust.
You did it in one?
I straightened the wheel a bit. I did it in one. I never do it in one.
Man.
I was so close to getting out of the car with my hands raised in the air.
Yeah.
I think, the beep, beep, beep thing that helps you to park on
Yeah.
the cars.
Yes.
Beep. I think
Sensors.
After the beep, after you go into the beep, 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 when you switch the engine off, I think the car should go da-da.
Like you've reached a new level.
Yeah, especially if you've took ages to park. Imagine taking like 3 or 4 minutes and then it goes da-da.
Well, it should really know if you've nailed it like you did in 3. It should have like a sort of a sound effect round of applause. There should be that.
So pleased with myself.
Very good.
I got out and I looked these men in the eye.
Oh, that's great.
And they had tattoos and plaster on their boots. You know, they were men. They were real men.
To be honest, I thought you had an air of swagger about you today.
It was fantastic.
Spring in your step.
Boz sitting in the back, I had no idea what I'd achieved.
I'm really proud of you, Frank.
That was great.
Well, parking has been in the news this week. A driver left her car blocking a gate in a BAE Systems. They're a weapons manufacturer.
And
let's keep that tab open.
Yeah.
Submarine makers.
Keep it in mind, because this story gets a bit, well, not quite fighty, but she leaves the car parked, and then and somebody tips a can of beans on her roof.
Yes.
And says that the car was badly parked, and that if they want to park in a parking space, wake up earlier.
Well, that's what I particularly liked.
I like to wake up earlier.
Yeah.
I don't like the beans on the car. That's a bit.
It said if you want a proper parking space, wake up earlier. And what I like about that, but it's quite a strange thought leap, the assumption that she must be a sort of lazy layabout. Maybe she's just a bad parker.
Sometimes I will have an uneasy night's sleep knowing I'm going to have to park the next morning. I've got to go somewhere where I'll have to park. Honestly, it will be. I'll feel it in my system. Pre-parking anxiety. PPA, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Called. So I can see that. What on earth was this woman doing at a submarine make?
Yeah.
Where was she planning to park next?
Yeah.
The bottom of the ocean.
And also, her lack of spatial awareness if she works at a submarine makers is a little bit worrying.
Well, she might be
visiting.
I think she might have been going to something around the corner from the submarine makers and just parked there because
you don't think she thought it was Subway?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the beans, there's something unpleasant about the beans.
There is, unless on the same day, like it might have been a heat wave and there was another car driving around with eggs on the top and bacon on the top.
What's the chances of that?
Yeah.
You know that thing when people say, oh God, it's so hot you could fry an egg on your car? Maybe it was someone that was trying to make a full cooked breakfast on a fleet of cars.
Yeah, but do it on your own car?
That's a good point.
Don't do it on Emma's.
And they put it on the roof.
It said the woman who wished only to be referred to as Emma.
Okay. Does she
Jane Austen.
do Babecast? Come on, guys.
It's specialist interest, baked beans.
She was on the picture. Is she waving a mobile phone at the camera?
I'm waiting for your call.
I mean, I'm guessing they probably don't do it anymore.
I don't know.
I haven't seen it for years, but, I'm just wondering if that still goes on. Oh, dear. But it's on the roof.
On the roof?
It's on the roof.
Well, at least she didn't leave there with a bean in her bonnet.
Oh.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I'll tell you what I also loved about this parking incident was that the person who wrote the note saying, why don't you wake up earlier? They also, I don't know if this was a mistake, but there was a smiley face drawn in the margin.
Well, I looked at
Did
that
you see
note.
that?
I think there's like 3 ghost smiley faces on the note. It sort of shows
in the margin.
Almost like it's a watermark.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Was it passive-aggressive?
Do you think it's indentations from previous writings on the pad?
It could be that.
Do you think that could be a way of tracing the writer?
Riddle's dead, isn't he?
He is dead.
Okay,
Can
so
you
it's
get the
not
pink
a
iPad out?
It's not a no, he is. I'm sure he is. So it's not a prank, but there is. I found 3 smiley faces on there. A bit Where's Wally on the note.
I did.
Yeah.
Mixed messages, though. If you're telling somebody else, somebody off,
Well,
you don't want.
that was why it was such a masterstroke.
Oh.
Yeah, here's a question. If it would seem to me the obvious, how would you get them off your car? The beans.
Well,
Oh,
good.
question.
That is a great question.
So you'd have to use the spatula.
Would
But
you
you
use
wouldn't have that
spatula?
with you, though, would you? You wouldn't have a spatula with you.
Speak
Remember,
for
you're not,
yourself.
you're not parked outside your house.
You don't
I'm
know what I
afraid-
carry in my trunk.
I'm afraid I'd go with just reckless acceleration.
You think you could drive
I
through
think
them?
Would
I
you?
think I'd drive the beans
You could
off.
drive onto them, so
Yeah.
to speak.
I think that could create a new measurement of car. You know, when they talk about torque and
Yeah.
Yeah.
horsepower, I think they could talk about, bean removal acceleration.
I wonder how fast you'd have to go to get the beans off that method. My
8,
problem
12,
is,
15 for any
once
scientists.
they've
Yeah.
gone down onto the back window,
Then you just get the wiper.
Let's go there.
I don't have a rear.
Problem
I don't have a
solved.
rear wiper on
Change
on
car.
on the Beamer.
Change car.
Love the way this conversation's going.
Yeah.
don't like it.
I drive to Edinburgh, just then I know I can guarantee it'll get washed off.
Would
Good
you at
point.
any
Yeah.
point consider eating them off?
No.
Wouldn't that be the most efficient method?
Do you
Probably
know
more
what's
likely
all-
to consider dustpan and brush and just.
You wouldn't have that in the
lean
car.
No, you're right.
Al,
You got to use what you've got.
Do you know what's concerning me?
No, I wouldn't eat them.
Is that I know in my heart that Frank would.
I told you about that mate of mine who went on a massive drinking spree and was walking home and started to sober up and had that terrible feeling of thirst that you got. I've told you this, haven't I? And he became convinced he was going to die of dehydration.
Oh.
So he licked the condensation off a car windscreen and the alarm went off on the car. He had to run away. Oh, man. So maybe it'd be like that.
That really is reaching rock bottom, isn't it?
Imagine the bits that like gnat's wings between your teeth and stuff.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Another bit of good advice. Wake up earlier if you want a parking space.
Yeah, and have a good healthy breakfast. Absolute Radio, where real muesli matters.
Oh, very good.
Well, 231 has had a similar incident. As they point out, not as bad as the beans.
No.
But we had a parking incident with a masterclass in passive-aggressive car notes. We returned to our car, which we were quite pleased to have found in the last remaining very small space, to find thanks, in brackets, not, exclamation mark, written in the dirt on our back windscreen. P.S. Whatever happened to not jokes?
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
there you go.
And did they ever were written down?
No.
Because you tend to notice the not early on.
Yeah.
Because the great thing about not jokes is someone would say something and you'd start to agree with them and then they'd go, not, and you'd made a terrible fool of yourself. Can I ask you a question as a dog owner?
Sure.
Emily Dean, and indeed Alan, two dog
Yeah.
owners.
Diddly-diddy.
If you had the dog with you, would you think if I put the dog on the roof for 5 minutes, the beans will be
She would
gone?
have. Yeah, she would have. Although I couldn't
Yeah.
really do that because my dog's something of a fussy eater. You know, my dog's gluten-free. She's beyond a joke.
Well, they'd be all right with baked beans, wouldn't you?
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the sugar in there might lead to some...
Oh, yeah, sugar.
some tummy trouble.
Glenn
that's the
Hoddle
thing.
band, the England team, having that. No, you'll whip it, have them.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like Frank's slightly 70s approach to dogs, though. Just let them eat other scraps, anything.
They are, in their own way, cleaning devices. though,
I know
aren't they?
I know what you mean. It would have passed through my mind.
But
Would
what would have passed my mind is you've then got to drive home in a car with a dog that's just editing a beat.
Yeah, exactly.
That mightn't work out that well. I just don't know how you'd get rid of them. I've got a toothpick with me at all times, but that's a long job,
Oh, yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, one at a
Yeah.
time.
Almost become like some kind of mindfulness exercise.
If only you knew that that person wrote the note, if you knew what their car was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You could write.
I'd find out.
If you had a toothpick, you could take the beans across individually and leave a note in beans.
Oh, that would be good. Back at you.
Yeah.
You could put...
Get a life. Imagine the joy of dotting that exclamation mark with a single baked bean. Oh man, it's just it's one of these. It's a sort of a funny story, but there's
Yeah.
something a bit malicious about the
Well, I received a...
Yes, the levels they went to.
baked beans.
Yeah.
Is,
I received a passive-aggressive parking note recently, and the person lives on my street, but
Oh, my God.
didn't put their name. They put like number 16 or like you're not a number. Just put who you are and we'll speak, like humans.
Well, they were perhaps attempting to dehumanise you.
I think they were dehumanising.
Or if you go
themselves.
around furious, they say the wife wrote it.
I think maybe it was.
The Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. Back Saturday morning from 8. Tune in live for the full Frank experience.
Absolute Radio.
Yeah, we've been talking about Arsenal, but what about Man City? I wanted to discuss this because...
Man City, who were handed the Premiership title by West Bromwich Albion, do you mean? By their fantastic win at Man United?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that Man City. What? Yes.
They signed a deal with Tinder. So Tinder are going to be their new sleeve sponsor because...
What is a sleeve sponsor now?
Oh, there's going to be like undercrackers sponsors. There's going to be all sorts.
Sleeve sponsors?
Yeah. Well, it's a new secondary sponsorship
Funny
thing.
Merlin was still alive. He'd have made a fortune for those babies.
Yeah.
Is that what his players are going to start wearing, those flared sleeves like they had in the 70s? So there's actually a sleeve sponsor.
I think this is the first instance of it, isn't it, Al?
Is it?
The secondary sponsor.
Little logo on the sleeve there.
My worst one, I know the Snooker World Championships is on there, is the waistcoat sponsor.
You don't like the snooker sponsorship, do you?
Oh, no.
Or the tennis. He gets a bit vexed about the tennis
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
Doesn't he?
Keep it clean.
Yeah.
Keep sponsorship out of our sport.
That's Frank's motto.
I think it's a lovely choice because I think nothing says romance like a Premier League footballer.
Yes,
Lovely.
True enough.
And Tinder
And we could all aspire to behave like that.
Tinder is just for it's the dating app, isn't it?
It's
what we used to call lonely hearts.
Do you know what's really good about this story?
It's a shame they don't call it that anymore.
They should still call it.
I think they didn't like the use of the word lonely in the title. Would put people off. But, why else would you go on it? Don't answer that on 8, 12, 15. We won't read it out.
What I especially like about this story is that Tinder were originally trying to sponsor Manchester United and then the talks broke down. And it's almost like the dating app executed their dating protocol and just went, right, next, Man City, okay. They just moved on.
Left.
They just swiped and went to the next
Or
one.
they went for someone slightly further down the road.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, West Brom had a Tinder account of their own, but apparently there was some problem and they lost all their matches.
Oh, that is a lovely piece of work.
Oh. So, it's a weird... How will it manifest? They'll actually have the Tinder logo on their sleeves. They'll wear their heart on their... Lonely hearts on their sleeves.
I guess
They'll wear their Joe Hart.
Oh,
He's not there
he's
at the
gone
moment.
now.
Hell, he's going to have to come back.
But not
because
forgotten.
he's on
He probably is also quite lonely.
You think?
Lonely Heart.
I imagine so. It's a lonely life, the goalkeeper.
It is. Goalkeepers are different is the title of a book by Michael Hardcastle that I read when I was at school.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Hashtag remember the trophies, though.
I'm with Justin Bieber. When I want to meet new people, I go to a shark ward. That's where, they're a captive audience and they've all got a story. They've all got at least one story.
They've got a good story, you'd think.
Is it going to put people off, though, the sponsorship? Do you know what I mean? Like, will it put Man
people off
United
Man City
fans?
or...
Put them off Tinder?
It might, it might put rival fans off.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's a fair point.
Do you think?
Yeah, because maybe they should have started their own dating one, and it could have been called Touré's Company.
Oh,
Because Touré and Company both play for Man
Very
City.
good.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Very good.
This is some great work this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. And what about Pep Guardiola?
What about him?
What about him?
Around her neck, she wore a yellow ribbon.
Everybody.
Springtime and in the month of May. Hey, hey.
It's a Catalonia ribbon. Is that what you're discussing there?
If I was him, I'd walk out to that. Everything. Here he comes down the tunnel.
Around her neck, she wore a yellow ribbon.
Imagine the raised hands and the grey jumper.
In the springtime and in the month of May. Hey, hey.
Great
I know it
school
seems a
jumper.
bit jaunty for basically a statement about Catalan independence, but I think I think it works. Anyway, thank you so much for listening this morning. It's a strange ending, but what do we care? We pride ourselves on that. So, look, if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now, get out.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.